Hey everybody, John Luvis here, Marketing and Communications Director for Maranatha Bible Church in Akron, Ohio. Thanks so much for watching the discussion today. If you have questions about what the guys are talking about, feel free to comment them. We're going to be putting out a series of resources as time goes on, so make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you can stay in the loop. And I hope you enjoy what we've got today.
Gentlemen, here we are. 2021, new year. Happy New Year to everybody that's going to be watching this. And it feels good to get out of the year 2020. Wasn't one of those special years for most people. Everybody looking forward to a new year. And as we enter a new year, what's on a lot of people's minds for a new year are New Year's resolutions.
Yes.
Did you know, statistically, about 60% of people make New Year's resolutions? 60%. That's 6 out of 10, if you're troubled on math. And only 8%, that's 1 out of every 12.5, again, for the math challenged, only 8% actually achieve their New Year's resolutions.
That's nice.
8%, that's less than 10%.
Yeah, that's good.
And so as we get started here, as we kick things off with a new year, thinking about New Year's resolutions, I want to know, what are the resolutions, if any, you guys have made for the new year? Any New Year's resolutions?
Well, hold on. Can I ask a question for you?
Absolutely.
Out of all the New Year's resolutions that you have made, New Year's resolutions, are you a part of the 8% that you kept them, or do you usually not keep them? Year to year, just average.
Yeah, I'll ask the questions here.
Oh.
So no, I would fall into the category of those that make resolutions oftentimes, and eventually those kind of fizzle out along the way. And most of the time, it's because the resolutions aren't all that important that I make.
Okay.
So, but enough about me.
Okay, no.
Resolutions.
Yeah.
We want to know.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll tell you, I'll answer both of your questions. For me personally, I think I'm 8 of the 8%. But the only reason why is because when I make a resolution, I typically just make one. So if I don't keep that one, then I am in deep troubles. But my resolutions in the past have been, you lose weight, to be more interactive with the family, just like little things like that I've noticed that I need to be more efficient or more dedicated to those things. But typically, I just do one resolution a year. And that's why I think I'm in the 8%, because otherwise, I'd probably be in, what's the other percentage?
Well, it would be
52.
92% that don't keep them.
Okay.
Because if 8% do, that would mean 92%.
Of the 60% of people who keep them.
Yeah,
Yes,
keep them.
of the
Yeah.
60%.
So I'll let you guys deal with the numbers. I'm not. Yeah, that's why I became a pastor. I don't want to deal with the numbers.
Understood.
Big
But
number, little number.
with
Yeah,
that thought in mind, though, what's the one resolution you have for the coming year? Then, do you have one?
For the coming year, I have 2 actually. So I have 2.
You said you normally have 1, but you have 2.
But for this one, I have 2. For this
Okay.
one year.
Yeah.
And one of them I'm stealing from Pastor Mike, because he shared that he was going to do it, and after he said it, I'm like, you know what, I should do that. And it's one, I don't want to curse. It's not that I'm constantly cursing,
Okay.
but I want to make sure that even when I'm alone, when I'm by myself, that I don't speak ill or say anything, bad, even if it's just in the moment.
Word.
Yeah.
No unwholesome communication.
Correct.
Okay,
So that's one.
That's a big deal.
Is that verbal or just in your head, or both?
Both. Yeah.
Not
I
even
want
in
to.
your head.
Yeah.
That's
It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard. So there's a chance that I may not be the 8% next year. At least I'm gonna try. But the other one is that I would like to continue on a journey of losing weight. I would like to be able to do that.
Okay.
So.
Do you have a goal in mind for that?
I don't have like I do have an specific number, but
You want to keep that under
I
wraps.
want to keep that under.
You're
under
keeping
radar.
that in the closet, like that's closed door.
Yeah, that's
that's
close.
you and God.
That's between me and God.
Does Jenny know that number or no?
Yeah, she might know. I don't
Emerson?
know. We'll have to call her.
Emerson.
Can we do a call in the middle of this?
Yeah, that'd be tough. We don't have.
Okay.
Yeah, you
We're
can't.
not
She's
there
with
yet.
Emerson.
We're not there yet. So
New Year's Day, you can't.
that's tough. Okay, Mike, what about you? New Year's resolutions for the year?
Well, the way that I have in the past, I have learned from my mistakes of overcommitting. So I normally would have, 15 to 20 New Year's resolutions. And then what I found was I would overcommit, and then it would just be, drudgery for hope. And then it was always these things that were kind of really dumb, whether it was food or it was exercise or it was maybe even spiritual ones that were really hard to keep. So what I do now is I have one every month, something that I start and something that I stop. And usually I'll start out the year, hey, I'm going to take 1 month off of social media, or I'm going to do 1 month of no coffee, or I'm going to do 1 month of exercising this amount of times, something like that. But I've learned if I switch it every month, I usually can keep it that whole month, typically.
Okay.
Yeah. So I will start out this year in some frame, withholding from, if it is my phone, keep it under, an hour of screen time, or no social media.
Yeah.
That's usually how I'll start out.
So in essence, you have 12.
Yeah.
12 of those.
But when the month is over,
You're back to
You're
it.
done.
I'm back to
So
it.
you do it in smaller spurts, basically.
Yeah,
month at a time.
I do have a shorter attention span than most people.
Okay.
So I know myself, and sometimes I'll even do things for a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's how you feel in the moment.
It's,
how
it's
they feel in the moment.
definitely, I'm feelings based.
I remember one time when I first met you, you were talking about one of the things that you wanted to do for a year was not to eat ice cream. And that came to an end very soon.
Yeah, I mean, I can share that story if you would like.
Yeah, I mean, so you'd be in the 8% that you started off asking me. You'd be in the 8% of those that say you're going to keep a resolution, then you don't keep it.
No, the 8%.
Is the ones that
they
keep
follow
it.
through.
Correct, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Well, here's what happened. This particular story Eric is referring to, it was 2016, going into 2017, and for whatever reason, I was like, hey, I'm going to go the whole year with no ice cream. And
You were feeling bold.
I'm a fiend.
'Cause you're an ice cream guy.
Oh, I
Yeah.
mean, it's every night.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an issue. So anyway, I was like, hey, I'm going to go the whole year, no ice cream, and Hope always gets mad because I'll replace it with something stupid, like I'll have ices or popcorn or whatever, and I'll just binge in that regard. But anyway, I'd made it 6 months. You right? I'd made it a long time, and Eric, everyone was like out to like make me stumble. Right? They were not applying Romans 14. They were putting stumbling blocks. I even have a picture of Pastor Butch holding ice cream in front of me, and I said, "Get behind me, Satan." So anyway, I made it real far, and then I had got stung randomly by a bee, 2 bees actually, and I went into anaphylactic shock. I was at Erick's apartment at the time, so I went and got Erick, and I feel like I've told this story 1,000 times, but anyway, I had to go to the ER, and Erick drove me to the ER. My hands had crumpled up, my feet had crimped up, like I couldn't breathe, and I stormed into this ER room, and they had given me steroids and stuff, and took away like anaphylactic shock, whatever, and I was fine. And right when I left there, it was June 17th, 2017.
That did it.
I drove right to Acme, and I bought 4 pints of ice cream, and that night I went home, and I was done. Yeah, and so ever since then, I've never...
Why, though? Why did you do that day?
I walked out of the ER, and I said to myself, life is too short.
To not eat ice
To
cream.
not eat ice cream. To not enjoy. Because I'm certain in heaven, I will eat ice cream all the time.
I mean, in heaven, I tell you my resolution is to have a good body. I know in heaven I'm going to be walking around with a six-pack.
Wait.
That's a fact. That's in Revelation 27, verse 5.
So you initially said your New Year's resolution was to lose weight. Now you're saying it's to have a good body.
Well, now at the
Whoa. Whoa.
Do you think Jesus had a six-pack?
Well, if he doesn't have it in earth, he will have it in heaven.
The question is, do you think he did?
I don't know. He was eating a lot with people. That's what.
All right, let me bring this back. According to most people's New Year's resolutions, statistically, the most common areas that people make resolutions in is exercising more. 50% of all resolutions have to do with exercising more. 49% fall into the category of saving money. 43% have to do with eating more healthy. 37% have to do with losing weight. So out of the 3 of the top 4 categories for New Year's resolutions have to do with exercise, eating healthy, and losing weight.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting because both of you guys in sharing about some of your resolutions when it comes to weight loss or getting a good body, Eric, I think is what you said, and Mike, in yours of not eating ice cream and maybe eating healthier.
To maintain the body, right?
Yeah.
That was not the reason why.
I know, but still,
to keep the body in submission.
3 out of 4 of the resolutions that most people make have to do with those categories.
Yeah.
And here's what's really crazy, though. 92% aren't going to keep those. right? They're going to break those resolutions. So let me ask.
It's because like what you have the instance from Mike. Like in his case, he was not necessarily doing it for health reason, right?
Sure.
But those that are doing it for health reasons, something's going to come up, an event in his life is going to happen, something whether it's small or big, drastic, that they're going to make them rethink. It's not worth it, or
Okay.
it's too hard. So let's keep up.
Okay, so there's two questions. One, what is the reason that people don't keep the resolutions they make? But then two, that goes with that, what are the reasons you think people actually do follow through and keep those resolutions?
I would say the reason I've kept mine, or the reason I don't follow through, is based upon how important it is, kind of like Erick was saying. Is it just for fun, or is this something because I think it's going to benefit, whether it's a spiritual discipline or something? And then I know for me, I will normally keep it depending on how public I make it.
Okay.
So if I tell, whether it's guys in the office, or I remember in the past I would post on my story, hey, here's what I'm going to do
Sure.
for this month or whatever. I would, as soon as you made it public, then people would have to ask you about it. And so that's just like a small tactic that would be more motivating.
Accountability.
Yeah. So accountability goes a long way in helping with keeping resolution.
Keeping it, yeah.
Because there's a check there, and there's people who are following up, and there's also the perspective kind of like, I need to prove to these people that if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, you
Okay.
But there's another side to that, like personally, and like two things. I feel like one of the reasons why most people don't follow through is because their goals are unrealistic. Like the things that they want to accomplish, that they would like to happen, are not things that they themselves are able to do it. But they think they can. Like, this year I am going to make more money than I ever did. But the person, the individual, is not someone who is driven to work. It's one that tends to be lazy. You have someone that says, I'm going to lose 30 pounds every month, right? 1 pound a day. But their habits, the thing that they're doing, is not necessarily leading to that.
Sure.
And so it's very unrealistic. So when they see reality versus what they expected that it would look like, then the discouragement, the realization that what they wanted to do is not happening, lead them to quit, right?
Sure.
But then on the other side of accountability, I am the type of person that if I am going to do something, I don't want anyone to know it. Because if you know what I'm doing and you come to me and you say something to me about that, I'm like, just out of the spite of you, I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm done.
Am I allowed to put a plug in here for a book?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a book 3 years ago I read, and now I start every year off with that book. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear, and the book gives like simple or practical things of if you're trying to start something and if you're trying to stop something, small things, maybe put in tangible things that you can actually get to. Instead of coming out of the gate saying, hey, I'm going to lose 50 pounds this year, it says, hey, I'm going to stop eating after 8 o'clock at night. Like giving things like that. And I reread it every year to start the year off, only because it helps me realize, okay, whether my discipline is spiritual or if it is like just normal, if it's weight or food or whatnot, how to actually apply them. And I think the making it public thing, this past year, one of my goals was to memorize a chapter in the Bible. And what I did was I had talked to Nathan, and I talked to you. I was like, hey, I always get bogged down at like verse 7, 8, or 9, whatever.
Sure.
Will we do this together? So in knowing that on Tuesday at this time, you were going to come over and say, hey, did you get it done? Or hey, how far are you? It kept me accountable to kind of keep going and to make it public.
Yeah, absolutely. Erick, you're involved in that too. How's that going?
Yeah, that's not going well. It didn't go well at all. I went to them and I told them, hey, I would like to join. I would like to join. This seems like a very challenge. I've been challenged because every Tuesday, very early in the morning, the first thing I hear is you three quoting each other chapter 8 of Romans. And I thought to myself, this is something that I should do. But then every week I forgot. And I have no excuse.
Well, the chapter's still there.
Yeah, it is still there.
Yes,
So the good news is that
you can still do it.
There's still hope.
And the good news is it hasn't changed. So anytime you want to jump in,
Romans 8's Romans 8.
I did memorize it in Spanish, so maybe I'll say for
why
ours.
don't you share with us?
Share with us.
No,
Yeah.
it's in English. It's an English podcast, so.
So a couple things I've heard you guys say in regards to keeping resolutions, and then why people fail. Oftentimes the way we keep them is through accountability. It's through, shared progress. It's through telling others so that they can keep us accountable. A lot of reasons people fail at resolutions is they're unrealistic, or we're trying to bite off more than we can chew, right? Or even go above and beyond what's even reasonable. I'm going to be a little bit vulnerable here. I'm going to share you guys a resolution that you don't know that I made before as a young youth pastor. I am not of tall stature, as you know, and so I was teaching a Sunday school lesson to middle school, high school students at the previous church I served at, and some of them would probably still remember this challenge, and it was, we were teaching about how we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us, and how oftentimes we can do what even seems like the impossible through the strength that God gives. And I was a young youth pastor, and I remember telling all the kids in that room that I wanted to illustrate it for them, that you could do more than you could ever ask or imagine through the strength that God gives. And so what I told the kids is I said, this coming year, by the end of the year, I'll be able to dunk a basketball.
One of those little kiddies basketball. I remember you sharing in middle school. I remember.
And it would be on a 10-foot hoop that I could slam dunk a basketball. And I was motivated.
Did you have those like risers?
No. And I was like thinking about getting the strength shoes that have the front, that build up your calf muscles. And
you're like thinking your little Mike, right?
You can do all that, and I didn't have a lot of progress around the way. I'm 5'6"3/4" with my shoes on, and so when I would venture out to do that, I failed miserably and never.
The bigger question is not your non-commitment or non-committal that it fell off, is your Bible interpretation of Philippians 4.
Yeah, that's the worst. I am concerned that if you took it the next step and you even got that on at the 2, you put that on,
and you taught it, so you're like, kids,
listen,
you can do whatever you want.
There was not the greatest.
Verse 10 and 11 and 12.
There was not the greatest of hermeneutics used there in my study of Scripture, but I failed miserably at that. But the point I'm making is sometimes we can be so excited about a New Year's resolution that we lose sight of reality, but also we bite off more than we can chew, or we make unrealistic goals. And so we find ourselves getting into a new year, and we have all these resolutions, or maybe to your point, 1 or 2, but they're so crazy, hyperbolic in the way that we're making them, that we get discouraged very quickly as we enter a new year trying to keep these resolutions. And so I think it's some good practical advice for people who are listening in, maybe people in the church or others, as they make resolutions for the new year, that we would make positive resolutions, things that would be honoring to God, things that would be measurable, things that can be attained, and at the same time seek it with it, that accountability and that encouragement from one another, especially in regards to positive resolutions that will have a positive effect for us. Certainly no one would disagree. It's a great thing to want to make a resolution to be healthier, and to seek to grow in our relationship with Christ, maybe in ways that previously we've struggled in, or to seek to honor God with our bodies and to exercise more, or to do things that are pleasing to God. And so we find kind of a ways that we can accomplish those things through that accountability and through measurable goals. So, Erick, your resolutions about losing weight as well as honoring God in your speech, right?
Yeah.
And not just in what you say as far as language goes, but even in our thoughts. Every one of us probably as believers could echo that and say, man, I need to improve in that area in some capacity, whether privately or publicly. Mike, I don't know that you shared any specifics as far as resolutions you have for the year. Was there any you wanted to share with us about the coming year?
Well, I shared the social media one, how every 3 months or so, I'll not be on social media, which honestly is a grind. I'll not drink coffee for a month every 2 or 3 months. New Year's resolutions that have stuck, that I feel like I have at least, I'm shooting for, I'll try to read anywhere from 30 to 40 books a year. And the size doesn't matter, even if it's a small or an audio book or whatever. And those that one is a yearly stick. I'll try and read through the Bible every year. That one usually sticks. There are things like that either I've done in the past where I just try to carry it over.
Sure.
So,
and it's not like a New Year resolution.
Yeah.
So 2 questions for you, Mike. First of all, what is this month's resolution for you?
This month's resolution for me started
January 2021.
Yeah.
Is social media.
Social media.
Yes.
So for this month, you're not gonna be in any
You're trying to
platform.
refer to past ones that I failed.
No.
Let's put it on recording. I attempted the whole 30 with Erick.
I am not.
Let me just share. We're in it. We're already. I attempted the whole 30 with Erick in November of 2020. I told him it was a unique work schedule for me that I was in. I said, hey man, I will try. let me finish the story because I know you want to say something. I said, I will try. I have no promises or guarantees. I may not make it very long. A week goes by, you approach me, hey man, you're looking really thin. You might want to start eating again. And I said, you know what? I think I will. Because I had lost, I was looking like a twig from what you said.
Yeah, and I didn't bring this up. I wasn't aiming, no, I 100 was not aiming for this. My question, I am curious because this is why I asked, because I know that every month you will come up with something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you.
Hope hates it, by the way.
Exactly, and that's what I mean. So I am legitimately curious what is that you're going to do this month, because every month, for what I have from the time I've known you, every month the things that you decide to do are ridiculous.
One time, I was going through with her, and when I start the year off, I'll say, hey, we need to go through these together. And I remember, like, it would be no sugar this month, or I was doing, one month was no TV. And she looked at me and she goes, that's my birthday month. And I was like, well, I mean.
You can do that on my birthday.
And like last year, obviously, that was the month we were quarantined or whatnot, and we were in the house, and she was like, imagine if you kept that one.
But I remember that one time you were doing the no caffeine. But yet you're drinking a lot of Sprite, and it makes no sense.
Sprite doesn't have caffeine.
It's soda, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't have caffeine.
So let me bring.
But wait, before I interrupt you,
Eric needs a minute.
Yeah. I need to know though, what is the goal? Like for me, the goal on some areas, like when I lose weight, is because I know my health, right? What is the goal when you decide this month I'm not gonna drink Pepsi? Is it more, coffee?
Yeah.
Is it more for you to know, I can do this, or like to prove yourself that you're capable of doing it, or is it because you're bored?
So
is it because
Nathan came up to me one time, and
Pastor Nathan?
Yes. And,
okay.
It's in 1 Corinthians 6:12. It says, "I will not be dominated by anything," and he's like. Man, Mike, you don't want to be dominated by anything. I said, Nathan, that has nothing to do with it. To me, it's more of like, I do get bored, and I want to do something that's like challenging or like that is like really hard. And then when I finish it, it's like, oh, I can do that. Yeah. I want to know I can do that.
You want to know your limits.
Yeah, I want to know what I can do.
That's fair. That's fair.
That.
Listen, I mean, here's the thing too. All of us are probably really good at like making fun of or telling people why their resolutions are ridiculous.
Yes.
But most of the time, if we're the ones that are doing that, it's because we ourselves are failing at keeping our own.
For sure.
And so it's easy to do that, right? We can do that. And, let's not try to destroy anybody over their resolutions, right? And just if I can give some practical advice for you, because you mentioned it a couple times that your wife hates certain resolutions you make, just don't do them. Like if your wife's going to hate it.
Which is normally what happens.
Don't do it. Yeah, don't do it.
The TV thing, we didn't do it. We watched a movie on her birthday.
Yes, good.
Very practical.
That's good.
Jenny doesn't have to worry. My resolutions are just one. So
that's good. That's good. That's good.
So
let me bring this full circle, because we have some folks listening, obviously, that are thinking about resolutions in the new year, and they're thinking about their relationship with the Lord. They're thinking about growing in their walk with Christ. It could be a positive or negative thing to make spiritual resolutions. Why would that be something that could be negative, to make New Year's resolutions that are spiritual?
I think it can be negative because if usually, let's say it's a spiritual discipline, typical one, hey, I'm going to read through the Bible this year. Well, hopefully, not just because it's the new year, you want to read your Bible.
Yeah.
Not that it's, hey, it's 2021, 2020 was trash. I'm going to read my Bible this year to be more equipped. Well, hopefully, that can be the negative side. But it also can be, well, if it gets you in your Bible, that's always a good thing.
For sure. Yeah, it's a fresh start, right?
Yeah.
So there's the aspect of it is we don't want to make spiritual New Year's resolutions simply because it's a new year, right? We want to have, spiritual disciplines because God would ask of us those things. He'd demand those things of us, that we would be following him and reading his word and praying and doing all of these things that we're supposed to be doing anyhow. And so it can become a danger sometimes when it's a resolution, because if we get fed up with it or it gets old very quickly, we just let it go by the wayside like any other resolution.
Yeah, Peter wasn't sharing the gospel like, hey, I'm going to share the gospel this month because it's January. Like he just did it. So that can be the downside.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like you have to recognize that when it comes to your spiritual walk, when it comes to your walk with God, the things that you want to do, the things that you should do are not based on a date, are not based, January 1st is when I'm going to do it.
Sure.
You should be doing it every day because you have to recognize that this is something that you must do.
Sure.
I mean, you mentioned Peter, you have Paul, who, if we think of someone that made it, as a disciple of Jesus was Paul, and he himself says in Philippians, I have not made it yet.
Yeah.
Like there's room for me to grow.
Yes.
And if Paul's saying that, then all of us should come to that conclusion. Like there's area of growth, and we shouldn't be waiting for January 1st to come to that conclusion. Like it's something that every day we need to be examining. How can I grow closer to God?
For sure. Yeah. And so as we wrap this up today, I want us to just share maybe one area or one challenge that we wouldn't necessarily say, hey, here's a New Year's resolution for anybody listening to challenge them in regards to their relationship with Christ. But maybe what is an area for you personally that as a new year begins and as you've examined the past year and examined your walk with Christ, maybe in the new year that you say, hey, here's an area that is not just a resolution for a year, right? But here's an area that I recognize that I'm asking and praying that God would allow me in the year 2021 to grow in this area or to honor him in this area. What would be one area you would be challenged in and maybe challenge people listening in for the year 2020?
Well, I sort of shared that already. My speaking, I would like to have a wholesome speaking. I want to honor God through my thoughts and what I say, right?
Yeah.
So for me, that's my challenge. I recognize that that's something that I must take part of as a believer. Yeah. And I need to be diligent in doing that, right? Sure. But then the challenge or the encouragement is that often I see that many people fail on keeping their resolutions or their goals. It's because they have one slip. They fail one day. Sure. Think about eating. They eat one bad food one day, then they say, you know what? I'm going to wait next Monday, right? Every Monday is like the national day to start diets, right? Yeah. Because on the weekends, they messed it up, right? Sure. So the challenge is like, if it comes to your spiritual walk with the Lord, if you messed up, don't quit. You can still continue. There's not a beginning or an ending date on those things. Yeah. And I think it also applies to your year resolution as well. Like if your resolution is for the year to lose or to be more diligent in your workout or whatever it is, and you happen that 1 month you fail, don't wait till the next year to pick it up. Right? Get back up and do it again. Yeah.
That's good. So follow through, consistency in that. Don't be discouraged in that. But that's an area I think all of us can grow in is honoring the Lord in our speech, honoring the Lord in our thoughts, and seeking to improve in that area and keeping that before him.
And one more thing too, is like recognize yourself. No one knows yourself better than yourself, right? Sure. And so because you know yourself, see what are things that are realistic. Yeah. Don't put yourself in that position where you're going to fail. Yeah. Because the things that you wanted to achieve that year is unrealistic, right? So have realistic expectation.
Yeah. So like in your aspect or in your area, you might not want to be constantly associating around people whose language and words and everything are not honoring to the Lord. Correct. Right? Because you want to fill yourself and your mind with those that are. Correct. Right? So that's a good practical point. Yeah, Mike.
So for me, I would say I've been thinking about this. I would say my prayer life is always a struggle. Like for me, I do find it hard to if I just say pray more, I probably won't. And when am I going to do it? And not just before you read your Bible or after, when you need the Lord. So for me, something that will be once a month, and then depending on the weather, maybe more. I'm going to shoot for at least once a month or twice a month to just do one loop prayer walk around my neighborhood in the morning, once a month. Hey, maybe it's, the first Thursday of that month or whatever, and set a reminder to where it's like, hey, it takes me 10, 12 minutes to take this loop around my block. Sure. And instead of just saying, hey, pray more, hey, once a month, specifically take this loop and pray. That is something for me, I think every year I'm trying to think of creative ways to is it a list? Is it, how can I grow my prayer life? So that for me, as far as looking back and looking forward, I need to at least be setting aside time to do that. Yeah. So
that's great. Yeah. And again, that's another area. I don't know you'd ever come across a believer who would say, I just pray too much. Yeah. Right. There's always room for us to improve in that area as well.
What about for you, Bruce?
Yeah, so there are two things. One, 2021, my hope and expectation is here shortly in 2021. I'll be celebrating Buffalo Bills AFC East Championship. That's the first. But no, in a serious way, a passage of scripture that was coming to my mind as I thought about 2021 and maybe some personal goal and desire as it relates to honoring the Lord is in Philippians 2, 3, and 4. It says this: do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Look, each of you let each of you look not only to his own interests, but to the interests of others. So this whole idea of humility and not doing things through selfish ambition or conceit, but counting others more significant than yourself is something that I really want to challenge myself on in the year 2021, that I would be putting others' interests above my own, looking at others as more significant than myself. And as you can imagine, that would play out in a variety of ways. But trying to build others up rather than building myself up, or trying to do things in humility, in deference to others rather than myself. It's a broad category, right? It's pretty broad, but at the same time, that verse has just come up over and over again in my mind in Philippians 2, 3, and 4, that if we were doing that, if I was doing that consistently, what would flow from that is obviously encouragement for people who are discouraged, building others up rather than any kind of speech or actions that are tearing others down. And there would be great, I think, joy received on the part of others if I'm proactively seeking to do that. And so that's a challenge for me as I enter 2021 that I'm hoping to keep and hopefully see how the Lord uses that.
So. And like you said, it's one that every believer should strive for.
Sure.
Especially what we experienced in last year. It's very timely.
Yeah, there's going to be abundant opportunities, in the year 2021, as there was in 2020, to seek to encourage people, to seek to be an inspiration to people, to seek to love people and care for people, meet practical needs. And so as the church, we should be the ones that are at the forefront of doing that.
Correct.
So this has been good. I mean, New Year's Day and New Year's resolutions.
New year, new me.
It resounds across the board.
New Year, same Jesus.
That's
same
right.
Jesus.
New Year, same Jesus. And so let's seek to honor him this year and see good things that God does. So
Awesome.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely.
Good. Thanks for having
All right.
us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.